welcome. So, don't mind me, I am filming in my son's room, because there's better lighting-ish, and there's a desk here for me to prop up my phone. So, long story short though, I did get a camera. I just need to get a laptop, so hopefully soon we can get that going. So, today is the day that we've all been waiting for, at least I've been waiting for anyway. And that is my story of my addiction and my recovery. So, let's get that started. My clean date is August 14th of 2016. I will have 2 years clean next month. And it's something that you have to work on a daily basis. Just because I'm almost 2 years clean does not mean that I have life figured out and, my life is perfect and I'm not an addict anymore, because that's just not how it happens. It's once an addict, always an addict. And that's so true, because no matter how many years you have clean, you're always going to have cravings or urges or thoughts, or, perhaps maybe even be around somebody who is using or has drugs, which, by the way, you should never be around anybody who has drugs or is using if you are a recovering addict, okay? You just don't do that. But say that happens to be the case and you can't control yourself or feel like you can't control yourself, please call somebody. Anybody. Okay? That is important. I know that being an addict, it's hard to get your mind off it once it's on it, but however long it takes to be on the phone with somebody to make sure that you don't use and that you get out of there, do it. It will save your life. But yeah, so I take it, as I say, one day at a time, and that's literally what I do. I don't think about the future. I think about right now, in this day, and what I can do to make myself better and make myself not have thoughts, or make sure, just make sure I don't use, period. I'm thankful and very lucky and blessed. I don't really have cravings a lot. And, I'm sorry, I have to reposition this. It keeps falling. And, so I'm very lucky with that. But there are moments. I've had moments. Trust me. And we'll get into that. But, a little bit on the background, though, of how my addiction started and a little bit before my addiction started. So when I was 14, I got sick. And the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. But I was having chest pains, a lot of nausea problems, very tired all the time, and I was missing a lot of school. So, that started when I was 14. I got diagnosed at 16, but my diagnosis was wrong, so I had to go see another doctor, and I was diagnosed when I was 18 with lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease, and mine is a very mild case, but I do get joint pains, and the fatigue, and, some other headaches, a lot of pain issues with this. So, I was also diagnosed when I was 17 with depression. And my autoimmune disease had a little bit to do with that, because like I said, I was missing school a lot, and I just wasn't able to be a normal teenager because of it. And it was really hard, and there were other underlying issues on why I was depressed, but that's not what this video is about. We're not going to get into this. I could do a separate video if we want to. But yeah, so to get in a little more, when I was 17 I met this guy named Nick, and I fell in love with him. We were high school sweethearts, first love, true love, everything. We were on and off for about 2 years, and at the end we broke up because he wanted to get with his best friend's cousin. Now, I did know his best friend because he had introduced us, and, obviously it's his best friend. Why wouldn't I not know his best friend? But, anywho, continue the story. So he, left me for his best friend's cousin. Well, I thought it would be smart to get payback and, get with his best friend. We're going to call his best friend Bob. So I thought it was a good idea to get with his best friend. Well, 5 years and a baby later, in case we didn't get that, his best friend is my son's father. Now, I promise it is not as bad as it sounds, and it all works out in the end, I promise. But, yeah, so, Nick used, and so did Bob. And I knew this, but I was so oblivious to really what drugs were. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to, readjust this thing about, 5 times. I am so sorry. But yeah, I didn't really know what drugs were. And I was really oblivious to it. I don't know if it was that, because I mean we talked about drugs in school, but all I remember them saying was don't do drugs. They never really said what drugs really were, or at least didn't say like pain pills were drugs. I guess, you know, I don't know, but or maybe it's just because I was so blind in love that I just didn't care. Don't know. But once I got with Bob, I started to learn more about it, and I knew it wasn't right, and you know, but obviously I couldn't get him to stop. A year into our relationship, I got pregnant, and I had a miscarriage at 7 weeks. So my depression kind of hit me again there, and my symptoms with my lupus were starting to get a little bit worse at that time. And one day we were at Bob's cousin's house, and of course Nick was there, and they were doing pills, and Bob looked at me and asked if I wanted one, and I said yes. Because, I mean, what else did I have to lose, you know? I mean, I just had a miscarriage, and, you know, that's, like, the worst thing that could happen. And I was already in pain, so why not, you know? Nothing to lose. I don't care anymore. That was my mentality on it. So, at that point, it really wasn't too bad. Like, I could stop anytime I wanted to. I didn't have to have them. You know, I only did them if we did have them, and I didn't really do that much, because I was kind of scared. I knew what I was getting into, and I didn't want to go deep into it. So, for about a year or so, I, you know, just did them here and there. I didn't really do it that much. But yeah, a year later is when I got pregnant with Caden, and I did not use during my pregnancy at all. And a big thing was, you know, I was scared that I was going to have withdrawal and morning sickness. But thankfully, because I did not use that much, that did not happen, which I was very, very grateful for. After I had Caden, though, they, you know, gave me pain pills in the hospital, which I took the right way, obviously, because they sit there and watch you take them. So, you know, I took them correctly, and I had really no thought on ever going back down that road again. You know, I wanted to be a good mom and, you know, do what's right and not be on drugs. But, they didn't send me home with anything. All they sent me home with was ibuprofen, which was fine. But then 4 days later, I ended up back in the hospital because I was in a severe pain and I was TMI bleeding more than I should have been. And so because of the pain, they did give me Percocet. And they gave me about like 10 of them or something like that to take home. So, you know, I got home and Bob, on the other hand, was like, hey, give me one of those. I want to break one down. I'm like, sure, you know what? Let's do it. Old time's sake, let's just do it, okay? Like, this is just my last time, this is it. Well, it wasn't the last time, but again, it wasn't a need for me. I didn't fiend for it, I didn't have to have it. After Caden was born, I started getting depressed again, and it was a mix of postpartum depression and, I had him at the beginning of wintertime, and I didn't have a car. We were staying with Bob's grandparents, and all we had was the upstairs. So, you know, it's just me at home because he was working, and so it's just me and the baby at home with no car in the middle of winter. It was depressing. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And I wasn't used to that. I was used to being able to go out whenever I wanted to. So, I'm sorry, my phone is just not staying correctly right now, guys. Ugh. Okay, there we go. And so we moved out by Bob's parents, and they saw what was going on with my depression and asked if they could just, you know, take my son for a short time while I got help with the depression. I didn't know that in the meantime Bob was going and telling them that I was on drugs and I didn't want my child, and I cared more about drugs than him anyway. So when I went to go get my baby back, they told me no. And long story short, I ended up in a custody battle. This is kind of when it went downhill. Not quite yet, but I ended up not technically leaving Bob, but I stopped living with him and I came back to my parents' house. And I started they helped me fight for my son. So while I was here, I had no urge to use, didn't use at all. Then Bob came to live with us. And that's when it started going downhill, because of course he came back and all he wanted was drugs. So if he had them, you know, I was like, okay. And that's when it started getting bad. It got to the point where it was a constant everyday need. And I mean constant by, they had us taking drug tests for every month for court, and you know, we didn't know how to pass them because we couldn't stop. So yeah, in the meantime, we're, you know, lying in court saying that we're not using blah, 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 and we're passing these drug tests and everything, and finally I got my son back, and in my head I justified it, and I said that, well, my son's taken care of, and he's taken care of first before my use, so it's okay now. He has everything he needs. But the problem was that I wasn't the one supporting him. It was my parents or Bob's parents. And I just didn't want to believe that. I was in denial that I even had an addiction. I was in denial that I wasn't the one taking care of my son. And I remember, you know, being just really frustrated and always tired. I never took it out on my son or by any means. You know, he is my world. And I don't really know how to explain that. I really don't. But it's not a good feeling at all. I never tried to take him out with me if I ever made runs. I made sure that he stayed here, and I was always making up excuses. I gotta run to the store, I gotta go to work, or I gotta do this, or something like that. And it just wasn't right. It wasn't right. Like, my son lost time with me because I figured that I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't. So, to fast forward a little bit more, my mom and Bob got into an argument, and Bob left. So I pretty much thought our relationship was over, but it really wasn't. So in this time, Bob's living with his parents, and little did I know that when we were hanging out and using, that he was taking videos of me using. I caught him one time doing it, and still thinking about it makes me so mad. But yeah, so he was taking those videos back to his parents and using them. So once again, we ended up in another court battle, or custody battle. But yet, for some reason, I didn't leave him. Let me explain this first here, before we get a little deeper in the story, because you're going to be like, why wouldn't you leave him? It was an abusive relationship. Although at this point now we weren't living together, it was very hard to leave him because he constantly threatened to make sure I never got my son back. And I mean, he's a real psycho person, so I didn't know what he was capable of or what he was going to do, but I did not want to lose my son. And another thing is, too, is that nobody knew that I was using. My parents didn't know. Nobody in my family knew. I mean, the only people who obviously knew were his parents because he told them. But nobody in my family knew. Even through this, you know, custody battle, I kept my composure and lied. And so where was I going with this, guys? I am so sorry. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, so why we were still together. So, you know, I didn't want it getting out to my family and making sure that I lost my son. I did not want that to happen. So I pretty much had no choice but to stay with him. And we would spend weekends together. Nobody knew that we were even together at this point anymore. Like, nobody knew. So at this point, we're, you know, giving our son to his parents for the weekend while I spent the weekend with him, and we went out and partied and used and whatever else. And let me tell you, that hurts me more than anything to this day that I did that. That I gave my son up on the weekends or even during the week. It really hurts. I hate myself for it, and I don't know what happened to me. But anyway, so we ended up in another custody battle, and this time I don't know. I was really mad, and I knew I wanted help, but I didn't know how to get it. And so, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to fix this thing like a million times. I'm gonna pause. Give me 1 second, guys. There we go. That's a little better now. So, going into this next custody battle, you know, I was mad that this was even happening again, and at this point I'm like, how am I even gonna keep this up anymore? So at this point I wanted to get clean. But, again, I couldn't tell anybody. I thought that telling somebody that I was an addict and that I needed help was going to hurt me in the long run and get my son taken away from me. That's how messed up it was. That I really thought that if I came out and said I needed help, that my son was going to get taken. So I remember being in the car on a drive home with my son sleeping in the back seat, and I just started bawling my eyes out, talking to God, asking him for help. Well, 2 weeks after that, Bob and I were in a hotel, and we were getting ready to leave for work, and there were cops sitting in the parking lot. May I mind you, he had no license and had a warrant. He insisted on driving and would not let me drive my own car. It was my car, and he would not let me take it. So we pull out, and as soon as we pull out, the cops come right behind us and pull us over. They take him out for his warrant and for not having a license, and they said, okay, well, we're going to let you go no matter what, whether we take him or not. All of a sudden, the cop that Bob was talking to comes back over to me and starts questioning me about having drugs or, you know, saying that I had white powder and blood in my nose. And I literally looked in the mirror. I'm like, where? Like, I made sure I didn't have anything. I always make sure. Now, mind you, we both did have stuff on us. And may I mind you also, he didn't get charged for him. Don't know how, but he didn't get charged for him. What I think happened, and what I'm pretty sure happened, was that he ratted me out. Because of some people telling the cops about me, they must have questioned him, and he ratted me out to save himself. Because he went to jail for his warrant and got out free with no charges on him, even though he had pills on him, and I went to jail for a felony. I was in jail for 2 days. Obviously, at this point now, everybody knows that I'm a drug addict. And what happened? The day I got out of jail, the next day after I got out of jail, we had an emergency temporary custody hearing. And I told the judge what happened, and I told him that I wanted to get clean. So he didn't do anything. And the case for the felony really didn't happen. I mean, I had my first court date, then it got bonded down to the county because it was a felony. And then after that, I didn't have another date until like November because my lawyer kept canceling. So in the meantime, I decided myself to get myself help, and I went to an outpatient rehab. So in the outpatient rehab, I did the Suboxone program, which I know there's controversy over, guys. All right, let me tell you one thing. If I knew then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done it. But, different story. We'll do that another time. So yeah, I did the Suboxone program. I did 4 months of IOP, and I did 5 months of aftercare, and then I did maintenance, which I'm still technically doing. And it was the best choice I ever made. I loved my group. I loved my counselors. They really, really did a lot for me. And I went through a lot. Like, I was in the middle of the custody battle, still even being in group, and without those people, I can't tell you what would have happened. They helped me keep my sanity, and they helped me stay clean. 2 weeks after I got clean is when I finally left Bob. I was depressed in our relationship. It wasn't going anywhere at this point. I hated him for everything he'd done to me. And I just wanted it to be over. And he claimed that he was getting clean with me. He didn't go in the program or anything. He was doing it on his own. And I remember kicking him out of my car and telling him I wanted to be over. And he said, I got clean for you. He looked me straight in the eyes and told me, I got clean for you. Later on, I found out he had drugs on him when I kicked him out of my car. So yeah. And I remember what I literally told him because he said that he was going back to his parents to go live there. And I remember looking at him, I said, oh, so you're going to go against me now because I broke up with you? Because that's how he was. Between these 2 court battles, we broke up about two times. And both times we broke up, he switched sides. He went from my side to their side. And so this time he's like, no, like, that's not what I want. I don't want to do that to you. Next court date, there he is, you know, giving his testimony on me. Saying how much of a bad mother I was and how I used while I was driving in the car and, you know, all this other crap and how I'd, you know, give my son away to his grandparents and just any horrible thing that you could think of. And a lot of it was even lies, too. But he lied so much that, like, he couldn't even keep up with it. Because the lawyer's asking him stuff and he's just like, what? So, didn't do much at all, obviously. And at this point, I'm clean. So, and before after I said that, after I asked him, I said, oh, so what, you're going to go now testify against me? I literally looked at him, I said, go ahead, because guess what? I have nothing to lose now. I am clean. They're not going to take him from me. So, you do what you want to do, but it's not going to make a difference. And it didn't. Here I am today with my son. He thought that, because I broke up with him, that, he could go against me, because that's how he was. Every time you broke up with him, that he would do something to try to get back at you for breaking up with him. And it bit him in the butt. So, that's fine. Whatever. I was happy that it was over with. I was happy that I was done with him and that I could finally go on with my life and be happy. And shortly after that happened, the court case ended. We agreed to, a visitation schedule and everything. And that was it. 2 months after I broke up with him, I got back in touch with Nick. At this point, we were both clean. And he was going to meetings with me, and our relationship escalated quickly, back to where it was. And it was the best feeling in the world, because he was all I ever wanted. He was my first love, my first true love. I believed that he was my soulmate. And so we got back together, and he didn't care about Caden being his best friend's son at all. It didn't matter. He loved him regardless, and he was even willing to adopt him if and when we ever got married. So that's what I mean by it all worked out. Is that he let me back into his life and took my son in as his own. He didn't really spend much time with my son. They probably only met twice, and that was because I didn't want to put my son in that situation if it wasn't something that was going to last. I wanted to make sure it was a relationship that was going to last before I bring my son into it. So they only got to meet like twice, but they loved each other. 2 months later, 2.5 months later actually, on January 25th of 2017, Nick relapsed and overdosed. He was put on life support for a couple days, about 3 days, and he didn't make it. He passed away on January 27th of 2017. That was the hardest and worst thing that I ever went through. At that point, I was only 4 months clean. Almost 5. That was not enough time for me to be able to cope with that the right way. I remember still going to group that Friday. This all happened on a Wednesday. So he was in the hospital until Sunday. So even though he had passed away, he was an organ donor. So they had to get all that figured out, so that's why we had a little bit of extra time with him even after he passed. So that Friday, like right before they announced that he was dead, I went to group, my aftercare group. Of course, I was a mess, and I was crying the whole time. And I remember my counselor pulling me aside and asking if I wanted to leave. And I told her that if I left, I wasn't coming back. The day it all happened, I had no thoughts in my head of using it all. But after it sank in the next day, you bet that it was on. I wanted nothing more than to go back out. I wanted nothing more than to die with him. Now at this point, my son was with his grandparents because obviously I wasn't home. So when I was home, I was alone in my own thoughts. So not thinking clearly, I just wanted to go with him. I couldn't understand why I couldn't be happy. And why I couldn't be happy with him. But that Monday, after everything, settled down, my son came home. And I remember him coming up and hugging me. And I remembered this is the reason why I'm living. This is the reason why I'm here. I can't leave him. I can't do that. He needs me. I've always said that my son is the reason why I'm still here. He's a blessing. He is the reason that I am clean today. He's the reason why I'm still here today. Because I don't think that I'd be where I am today without him. At all. Period. That's my little dude, man. And he always will be. We have a very, very close bond. So after Nick passed, I was still going to group. I was seeing my counselor at this point now once every week. I had some meds being adjusted because my depression obviously got worse. And I was still going to meetings, and shortly after that I finally had gotten a sponsor, because I had a hard time with that too, but I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, so I did everything in my power to make sure that I stayed clean after that, because I knew it was important. I knew that Nick didn't want me to go back down the road, and I knew that I couldn't because of my son. So I did everything in my power to make sure that I stayed clean. And I know that he's looking down on me right now, proud as hell of what I've done. Let's see, at this point now, it's been a year and a half since Nick passed. I do have somebody new in my life. Well, he's not really new, he's been around for quite a while, but I guess to you guys. And he's pretty amazing. He is not an addict or a recovering addict at all. He's never been down that road, but he accepts my past, accepts what, me being a recovering addict, and he's there for me whenever I need him. He's very supportive. And Nick had always said that if he died before me, he was going to find somebody to take care of me until I got up there. And he did. He found me the best possible guy he could. And I'm thankful for that. But with that being said, my boyfriend now is the most amazing person ever. And I mean, we've talked about it, about cravings and issues, and he's always said that, what, if you ever have the urge, you just call me, or you come over here. He accepts me for who I am. He accepts my son. Life is great. This is where my happiness starts, and I fought pretty hard to get here. So if you think that happiness isn't going to happen, I promise it will. You just have to work very, very hard. This is something that every addict can do. I know there's a lot of addicts out there who want help but don't know how to get it, or want help but can't tell anybody because they're afraid of being judged. Listen, people. The drug addiction is an epidemic in this world. And I think that if more of us were open and supportive, more addicts would get help. Okay, because I was one of them that got judged and couldn't tell anybody because she was scared of what they thought. So she didn't get clean. I went through the judging. My family did not take this very easily, let me tell you. I lost my sister because of it. She's not, dead or anything. She just hates me. But, instead of being there and supporting me, she just left me. Somebody I had looked up to my entire life, my best friend, left me because I was an addict. So, I know what it's like to be judged. I know what it's like to lose friends and people and family, and it's no fun. But screw them then. I guess they weren't real friends or family. So you know what you do? You don't give a crap what anybody thinks, and you're gonna march in somewhere, and you're gonna get the help that you need. I am here if anybody needs anything. Please comment down below, or I'm trying to get, a Facebook page up to where that I could interact with you guys and everything, and if you guys need to message me, then you message me. Whatever it is, I'm here for you too. This is why I made this channel, is to support people and help people. Even if it's just one person, I don't care, then my job is done. I want this all to stop. We've lost enough people in this world. We don't need to lose any more. So please, guys, get the help that you need, and please help somebody that needs the help. Don't let them suffer alone. It's not fun. So, that being said, I really hope that I covered everything. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes over here to make sure I covered everything, because I had to write notes for this. But, yeah. And real quick, too, like, some things that I do to kind of help myself. If I'm feeling down or anything, I try to keep busy, or try to do something fun. I'm into crafts and coloring and all that fun stuff. Anything to keep me busy. My son keeps me pretty busy, too. If keeping busy helps you get your mind off of that, off of using, then do it. Do whatever it takes to make sure that you stay in the place that you need to be in. Alright guys, I really hope that this story can help somebody. Please like, share, comment, and please subscribe to my channel for more, because I will definitely have some more videos up, because I already have some ideas about this. So, that being said, thank you all for sitting here during this long video, and thank you for watching. Please pass it on, and again, please help somebody in need, and please, if you need the help, please, 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 please get it. Thank you guys. I will see you soon. Bye.